Good afternoon, Mr. Seleka. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon, Chairperson.
Are we ready?
We are indeed, Chairperson.
Yes.
Chairperson, the witness for the session is Mr. Machela Moses Koko, and he may take either the oath or the affirmation. We will place on record the legal representatives after that.
Afterwards, okay.
Yes.
Let's do the oath or affirmation.
Please state your full names for the record.
Machela Moses Koko.
Do you have any objection to taking the prescribed oath?
No,
Do you consider the oath to be binding on your conscience?
that's correct.
Do you swear that the evidence you give will be the truth,
Indeed.
the whole truth and nothing else but the truth? If so, please raise your right hand and say, "So help me God."
So help me God.
You may be seated, Mr. Koko. Thank you for coming to give evidence and assist the commission. Mr. Seleka, or then
Thank you, Chair.
counsel for Mr. Koko
Yes,
can
Chair.
place themselves on record. You may do so from where you are if that's convenient.
Chair, my name is Frans Barry. I'm from the Johannesburg Bar. I'm instructed by Doe Incorporated Attorneys. Chair, as mentioned to you in chambers,
Yes.
there's some matters of housekeeping that we would want to draw to your attention.
Yes.
Because we were at after 9 yesterday evening supplied with a bundle that is going to serve before you today, and it is in certain respects deficient. The one aspect is unforeseen, but we made available to the legal team an affidavit to correct minor errors
Okay.
in the affidavits that have been made available to
Okay.
the Commission. Then we wrote to you a letter yesterday in relation to various aspects pertaining to these proceedings.
Yes.
My understanding is that that letter has not reached you
Yes, it has not reached me.
because one of the issues that is relevant here is that we have now for a period of more than a year been trying to obtain our clients' cell phone records, which you will know have in these proceedings been put to witnesses quite liberally. And we have requested, I think on the 29th of October of last year already, we have requested that these documents be made available to us. They were not made available to us.
Did you get a response at all?
We did not get a response to that letter at all.
Oh,
And that letter was then later followed up when, during this year, more recently, in a letter dated the 23rd of September 2020. And the letter that we sent to you this morning was to ask again, which was the same request that was made yesterday, that you should intervene and give some directive to the effect
yeah.
that those cell phone records
Yeah.
have to be made available to us. It does seem to us, though,
Yeah.
that we do not have any choice but to resort to the Promotion of Access to Information Act.
No, there should be no
which-
need for
which-
that. If we have got the information, it relates to him, I can't see any problem why the commission shouldn't give those
In
that
the letter to
information.
you, we express our dismay
Yeah, no,
at this situation.
I can't think of any reason why, if we have got them, why they can't be made available.
And
You refer to some occasion when they may have been mentioned. I seem to think but I don't remember whether it was Mr. Koko's cell phone records, but I do know that at some stage a few weeks ago or 2 months ago, whatever, when we were dealing with Eskom matters, there was a reference to some cell phone records, but I can't remember whether they related to him or to somebody else.
No,
But if we have got the cell phone records relating to him, there is really, I can't see any reason why they should not be made available.
Chair, the reason why I'm mentioning that act is if we have to resort to that, you will be the person responsible to respond to it, and we wouldn't want you to take umbrage at that. But for the time being, if I may hand up the affidavit correcting the prior affidavit, and then the letter of yesterday, which was incorrectly dated, I must say, and then again the letter to us, so that it is a matter of public record before you.
Yes, yes. He's going to take
I have
those.
copies for my learned friends, although I'm sure they also have these documents.
What is the effect of the fact that you have not received those cell phone records?
In terms of our continuing today,
Sorry?
in terms of our continuing with the proceedings
Yes,
today,
yes,
our decision is that my client needs to be heard.
yes, yes,
My client has been the victim of
yes.
vicious trial by media over
Yes,
a number
yes.
of years.
Yes.
And my client wants to be heard before
Okay,
you.
okay, no, that's
So
fine.
we are not going to ask for a postponement or any of the
Yes.
things, but we are,
Yes.
in due course, hoping to get those records.
No, no, that's fine. Is it important for me to read these before we start, or
I would not think it is particularly important
I
at
can
this
read
time.
them later?
But if you possibly overnight, then
Yeah, okay.
or in due course. I may also mention that we have been requested to be here again on the 11th of December.
Okay.
Our
okay.
understanding is that the present proceedings relate only to what is referred to as the suspension
Yes,
of
yes, of the executives.
executives.
Yeah,
We are apparently
Yeah.
going to be back on the 11th of December
Yeah.
at the
to deal with other
earlier
matters.
hour, we hope,
Yes.
when we will see you again. So things that have arisen possibly from the correspondence
Yes.
will then be addressed.
No, no, that's fine then. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Chair.
Mr. Selega, what's the story about cell phone records not being made available to Mr. Koko's legal team?
Yeah. Thank you, Chairperson. The cell phone records that have been used before the Commission, they came through the evidence of Ms. Veletti, Nonkululeko Dlamini Veletti. The affidavit, together with what was contained in regard to the list of telephone exchanges between her and Mr. Koko, would have been provided to Mr. Koko in terms of Rule 3.3. And indeed, that was provided to Mr. Koko prior to Ms. Veletti coming to testify, because the part about Mr. Veletti's evidence in the affidavit is responded to in Mr. Koko's affidavit. That's one. Then there was a general request for cell phone records, which Marlene Fent is referring to. There was a response to that, Chairperson, by a letter dated 13 November 2020 from the Secretariat. It's a two-page letter. It deals with all the requests that had been made from my learned friend's attorneys, and the letter is addressed to the attorney, Mr. Pomutso Ndo. In regard to the telephone records, the letter reads at paragraph 7, any mobile or phone records that the Commission has in its possession have been obtained by virtue of the Commission's investigative work. In the event that the Commission wishes to present any such records as evidence during the testimony of your client, such records will be part of the bundle of evidence that will be presented. This information will be shared with your client beforehand to afford him an opportunity to prepare. Let us know if you require any further assistance. So it's not correct to say there was no response to the letter. There was indeed a response, and insofar as the information was used before the chairperson in regard to Ms. Veletti, that would have been provided to Mr. Koko.
And then, well, the letter says the records, cell phone records will be provided together with the bundle. Has that happened?
No, that is, we are not, that is if the commission intends relying on that when your client comes to testify. So we haven't packaged the cell phone records as evidence for the purposes of Mr. Koko.
Yes, well, is there any reason why you can't share them with his legal team? The cell phone records, aren't they relevant for some or other point?
Yeah, I haven't looked at them, except for the ones of Ms. Nonkululeko Veleti, chairperson,
Yeah.
which have been shared.
Yes.
The one which is a general question.
Or you say those ones have been shared?
Yes.
Yeah.
The general question one, any cell
Yeah.
phone records in the possession of the commission.
Oh, okay, well, I think what should happen is have a discussion with Mr. Berry, have a
Indeed.
discussion afterwards to understand
Yes.
exactly if they have received the earlier ones which you say were sent together with the Rule 33 notice.
Yes.
And whether the request for other cell phone records is just to say any cell phone records that the commission has
Or might have
that
obtained.
might have or relevant to a particular issue. If the two of you talk, I'm sure that will be sorted out.
We could certainly do that, Chairperson.
Yes, yes.
Chair, if I may, I didn't intend to convey to you that the more recent letter was not responded to. It was responded to, it took 2 months. But the
Yes.
initial letter was never responded to. We haven't received any cell phone records.
Yeah.
But the real issue is,
Yeah.
the cell phone records are not only important for what my learned friend thinks they might be important. They may be important for what they do not show.
Yeah.
And we requested that quite unequivocally.
Yes.
We discussed it with my learned friend.
Yes.
We still don't have it.
Yes.
And it's beyond our understanding, to be perfectly frank, how this can happen.
Yes. Well, maybe what we should do is after, when we finished this evening, the two of you can talk. Today is Thursday, the 11th is next Friday.
Correct, Chair.
Yeah, when Mr. Koko would be back. I think if or by Monday or latest Tuesday, the issue has not been resolved, then maybe the two of you can see me at the hearing during one of the breaks, and
Very
we can see,
well.
we
Very
can
well.
see
Thank
what
you.
can be done. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I
Yeah.
think that's,
Okay, all right.
for the time being.
Yes. Okay. All right. Okay, Mr. Silega.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, on that note, we may proceed. The bundle we will be using is Eskom Bundle 15, Exhibit U27.
Yes.
Mr. Koko should have the same bundle also in front of him. Eskom bundle.
And let's confirm that for purposes of this evening, Mr. Koko's evidence will be confined to the issue of the suspension of the executives. Any other evidence, any other matters in respect of which he may testify will be dealt with either on the 11th or some other time.
Indeed, Chairperson.
Okay. All right.
So the suspensions will not, his evidence on the suspension will not touch on the transactions, which I know other people do know, the transactions, the Tigeta transactions,
Yes.
the trillion transactions.
Yeah.
That will be dealt with in due course.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
So, Mr. Koko, by way of the bundles, you have Eskom Bundle 15, Exhibit U27.
Maybe what you should do, Mr. Seleka, just for the benefit of the public,
Yes.
Because I hear evidence during the day relating to this, this entity, and then in the evening, I hear evidence relating to another entity,
different
and the previous evidence relating to that entity happened weeks ago. Maybe you could just recap as to, excuse me, as to where exactly Mr. Koko fishers in terms of the suspension, so that when Mr. Koko starts his evidence and the questioning starts, the public can follow.
Follow.
Yeah.
That's right. Okay. This is, the evidence that will be presented is part of the Eskom work stream in regard to matters arising at Eskom back in March 2015. On the 11th of March 2015, Chair, the Eskom board took decisions to suspend 4 executives. Mr. Koko was one of the 4 executives suspended. The 3 other executives were ultimately engaged in negotiations to leave Eskom. Settlement agreements were concluded with them, on the basis of which they separated with Eskom. Only Mr. Koko came back from his leave. The evidence then he will, we hope he will adduce today, relates to the circumstances leading to his suspension, and perhaps give the Commission insight into his return. And when he's back, then there are other factors or matters relevant to his presence at Eskom, which are the matters we say will be dealt with in due course. In a nutshell, his evidence fits into the issue of the suspensions, the decisions by the board relative to the evidence that has already been laid.
Well, the part that you may have not highlighted, which does need to be highlighted, is that there are some witnesses who have given evidence to the effect that whereas the suspensions were effected on the 11th of March 2015, he had called them separately to meetings that they had with him together with Mr. Salim Essa on the 10th of March. That is the day before the board suspended the 4 executives, where the information, where the discussions revealed that, I think in respect of one of the witnesses, Ms. Daniels, I think he said it was Mr. Salim Essa who did most of the talking, if I'm not mistaken.
That's correct, Chair.
And he was the one who told her that 4 executives were going to be suspended, including Mr. Koko. Mr. Koko, according to Ms. Daniels, was in that meeting in Melrose Arch, and Mr. Masango gave evidence this week. Mr. Abraham Masango, he said he too was called by Mr. Koko to a meeting at Melrose Arch on the 10th of March. And he said that he met with Mr. Koko and Mr. Salim Essa, but he said it was Mr. Koko who did the talking. Mr. Salim Essa was quiet most of the time, I think. And he said Mr. Koko told him that there would be a suspension of executives, which would include him, Mr. Koko. Yeah, and I think one can say that in Mr. Koko's affidavit, which is here, he has admitted that he had a meeting with Ms. Daniels at a restaurant, but has denied that there was any meeting that he had with her and with Mr. Salim Essa at Melrose Arch on that day, and discussing the suspension of executives. I haven't seen anything he says about Mr. Masango's evidence, but it might be somewhere. I just haven't seen it. So I think it's important to understand that, because I think it's an important part for both Mr. Koko and those particular witnesses. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay,
Chairperson,
all right.
yes, if we give that more detailed description, then we might as well add, there's also, Mr. Koko, the evidence of Ms. Valetti, who says she was also called by you on the 10th of March 2015, that Mr. Koko was asking her also to come to Melrose Arch, was asking for her CV. Chairperson, we have consulted with Mr. Edwin Mabelane, who is going to give an affidavit as well. And he gives an information about him also being with Mr. Koko in his office, in Mr. Koko's office, on the 11th, midday, or just after midday, and being told by Mr. Koko that we might be suspended, but without specifying who are the we. And he's coming in Mr. Koko's office to tell Mr. Koko that I've received a call from the company secretary. He says, tomorrow morning I should meet with the chairperson. He emphasizes the importance of the time. And in response, Mr. Koko said, well, you might be asked to act, and that meeting is probably about that, the meeting of tomorrow morning. And he says he leaves the office of Mr. Koko with the impression that he's going to be asked to act in Mr. Koko's position, and that's what happens. So if we go into the detail, we could paint that picture in its entirety.
No, that's fine. But it's important that I hear Mr. Koko's side of the story as today.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Let's continue.
Yeah. Chairperson, this being an evening session, I think, Mr. Koko, you can accept that we have read your affidavits. And we will cut to the chase. So that file I've referred to, which is Eskom Bundle 15, contains your affidavits. It contains, there's two affidavits.
Well, maybe I must say this, Mr. Koko. Nothing he says means you won't get a fair opportunity to put your case. Okay. So if don't think that you will be prevented from stating your case,
Yes, indeed.
putting your evidence properly.
Yes.
Yeah.
Chairman, I don't want to be disrespectful of you.
Yes.
And if I am, I grew up with my grandfather, he will smack me. So
Yeah.
I've been criminalized and I've been criticized. I've been condemned. I've been called names. I have a son who comes back from school, and I feel for him. I looked forward to today.
Yes. Yes.
I really want to assist you to get to the truth.
Yeah,
wherever the truth leads you to.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I had a long, difficult discussions with my lawyers about we don't have this, we don't have that. And I said to counsel and my attorney that we go in there, whatever happens. I've followed your sessions closely, and I have no doubt that I will be heard. I am of the view that this is the only place, given the 4 years that I've been crucified, that evidence will matter. And you will cut to the chase and separate allegations and just focus on the evidence. And I really want to ask you that you allow me to make opening remarks. And if you say no, it's okay.
No, no, I will allow
I
you.
will be hurt if you say no.
Yeah, no, I will allow you. You see, if I had my way, people who have been vilified or feel that they've been vilified in the media and so-called court of public opinion about matters that fall within the terms of reference of the commission would come here and, because they would get a chance to put their side of the story. We might make mistakes somewhere, but certainly we try our best to make sure that everyone gets a fair opportunity. That doesn't mean that we would allow anybody to just go on and on and on, because obviously time is important. But we would try and make sure that as far as possible, they get a fair opportunity to put their side of the story. So I have allowed other witnesses who have asked for time to say something before the questioning starts, and I would allow you. Some have said, can I have 5 minutes? Others have said 10 minutes, others 15 minutes. And we have looked at how much, and then they would say what they wish to say before the questioning starts. So, I would allow you. How much time would you like?
15 minutes.
15? Okay. It starts now.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
I have a set of documents that I brought for your purpose.
Yes. I must just say, Mr. Koko, on one occasion, I don't know whether it's one or two, I allowed a witness to say something without a statement and without us having seen the statement, having seen what they are going to say in advance. But then the witness started making statements implicating other people, and those people had not been notified. I don't know whether you are able to assure me that you're not going to be mentioning anybody's name that would be implicated who has not been notified or anything of that kind. I just mentioned that because when it happened, I realized that maybe in the future when witnesses or certain people want to make statements, we should say, give us the statement of what you are going to say in advance, so that if we see that somebody will be implicated, we can notify them.
Chairman, I will not mention names that are not in my affidavit.
Yes, okay, all right. Okay.
And if I do...
No, if they are in your affidavit, names that are in your affidavit, those people would have been notified and so on, so there should not be a problem with that.
Thank you, Chair.
Yeah. Okay, all right. You missed that.
Chairman, I thought I must put it to you that I listened to the NPA giving feedback to Parliament. And I got extremely worried about what was said there. Ms. Herman Cornier told Parliament that we don't want to get to the lowest hanging fruit. We know who we are targeting, and will prosecute them. And he says if it will be disappointing for them to get to the lowest hanging fruit, but not get to the people they were set up to get. And I thought the prosecution is not set up to get to people. The prosecution is set up to follow the evidence and get to the people that the evidence implicates. In the letter that you have received, and I had a long argument with my counsel, and I forced them to write it to you, because I honestly think that by unconsciously or consciously, your investigators are following people and are not following the evidence. Because if they follow the evidence, I can assure you, Chairman, different people will be sitting where I'm sitting. That's one thing. You will, and one of the things I appreciate with you is that you put your proposition. So I listen to you and say, this is what the judge is thinking. Chairman, you're going to make a decision about whether there was state capture or not. And you have clearly made it clear that state-owned companies were very competent companies in the past. And then there was state capture. And then they are all in trouble. And you included Eskom. I have, in the event that you conclude that there is state capture, and in the event that you conclude there was state capture at Eskom, the difficulty you're going to deal with is this. Eskom in 2001 was the Global Energy Company of the Year. I was there. And the chairman, the CEO then was Alan Morgan. Purely on evidence. And this is why I say this is the only place where evidence matters. And I would like you to go to, it's this graph, Chair. I think it's in the,
Document doesn't have, or does have page numbers.
it does not have page numbers, I apologize, but it's written Eskom operational performance under different executives.
Yes, I've got it.
You will see that is Eskom performance since 2000. You will see the peak in 2001. That's when Eskom was the global utility of the year. You see the peak there. We were working on water. We were proud of being Eskom people. We traveled overseas, and I was one of the few people fortunate to be part of the technical team that went globally. And everywhere we went, people came to us and asked us, how did you do that? Tulani Kabashe took over after Alan Morgan. If you look from 2002 to 2000, and if you look at what's happened in 2015, it's downhill.
It was at its highest around 2000, 2001. Then around 2003 came down, then 2005 it rose again a little bit, and then from around about 2005 seems to have been going down right through, and 2015 represents, it seems, the lowest point.
Yes. And then 2015, look at what happens in 2015.
Mm-hmm. And then it rose up to a certain point in 2017. And then it started coming down again.
Yes.
Yes.
The submission I will make to you is that in 2015, 2016, 2017, Eskom produced the best performance improvement ever since 2001 in all KPIs. Now, the front page of your documents that you are looking at is Eskom KPIs over 10 years. You choose any single KPI there, any single KPI. You will see that it's been the best ever since 2001. It shows the best improvement in the year that is today defined as the years of state capture. So when you get to a conclusion that there was state capture and it affected Eskom, the challenge you're going to have to deal with is that in the years of state capture, Eskom produced the best performance ever. The next graph I would like you to look at is the one that is after what we looked at. The one that's...
I'm sorry, the red lines, vertical lines, what do they represent? I was looking
The
at
red lines you will see at the top, it says in 2005, the CEO was Mr. Damis. And the chief generation officer was Mr. Deva Kabenda. And then in 2014, the CEO was Mr. Matona. And the chief generation officer was Mr. Ntsokolo Mongesi. And then in 2015, the chief executive officer was Mr. Molefe. And the chief generation officer is Mr. Koko. I call it the Molefe-Machela effect. Machela-Molefe effect is the best ever since 2001. And Machela-Molefe are being presented to you as the face of state capture. When history is written, and I can tell you now, Mr. Chair, history will absolve us that we have shown the best performance ever since 2001. When I became the most senior engineer in Eskom on merit, my motivation was done by BGB in Germany and APRI in the US, purely on merit. I took over from the gentleman called Mr. John Beck. He passed on. 12 months after he passed on, his wife called me in and said, in Mr. John Beck's will, he's mentioned your name. And he has directed that you take all his professional library must be delivered to your house. Because in his will, he says, because you were one of the best engineers he's worked with. That was not a deployment. Chair, the next page, after the one you are looking for. You know, South Africa is a different country because even black people are not accepting that a black engineer can produce the performance that you see in front of you. So they employ a lot of people, and the supposition was that the numbers that you are looking at are cooked. And this graph comes from an emeritus professor in Cape Town called Professor Anton Aberhard. And when he did this work, all what he thought to prove was that the numbers we produced was cooked. Of course, he's a professor, he could not prove that. But if you look at what happens between 2017 and 2018, the best he can do is that it's an outlier. Because they just can't explain technically what we did. The fleet, the age of the generation fleet Mr. Molefe and I managed was 36 years old. And when you deal with this, they will then want to tell you, but no, Mr. Koko postponed maintenance. And that is why he had the performance. And they will resist looking at the data. They will deliberately look at the data. Chairman, I've brought you the data, and it's in the next page. You will see in 2016 that the only executives that did the most maintenance in Eskom history since 2023. And I must repeat this and say it very slowly. The team that did the most maintenance ever in the history of Eskom was a team of Mr. Molefe and my team and Dr. Ngubane. The number that we use is PCLF. It's a measure of the amount of maintenance we see. If you go and look at the history of Eskom, 13% is the highest we've ever produced. So whoever comes to you, and Mr. Mabuza tried to tell you that we reduced maintenance, he never gave you evidence. He will never give you evidence. He will never do that. The evidence is in the documents that you have, and they're all in Eskom yearbooks. In my time, and in Mr. Molefe's time, and in Dr. Ngubane's time, we've done the most maintenance. It is for that reason that you go to the next page, the very last page, and you see that we've reduced the diesel spend in 2015. The one we just had is this one.
Yes, it would help, yeah. Yes. Oh, yes, yes. Well, let's just number them now. I think the first page, let's just mark it 1.
Yes.
The next one 2. The next one 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. There are 10, eh?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Berry.
Chairman, if you go to page 9, this is the diesel spent by Eskom. Now, the amount of diesel you use to keep the lights on, it's an indication of incompetency. So if you look at 2014, you see the peak is 12.5 billion rands. In 2013, 14, 15, you'll see that Eskom was spending 12.5 billion rands a year. It's a billion rands a month. And I told Mr. Matona and I told Mr. Molefe, says, I've been in this place for over 20 years. We don't need to burn diesel to keep the lights on and to do the maintenance that we need to do. We've got sufficient capacity. I was taught that. I was taught by John Beck, Mr. Beck, may his soul rest in peace. I was taught by Mr. Dames. If there's any person that has a feel of this system, I'm one of them. To burn diesel to keep the lights on in today's time is sheer incompetency. My team, and it's still there at Eskom, reduced the diesel spend in 1 year from 12.5 billion rands to 200 million rands. And I always make submission and says, if you burn more than 200 million rands of diesel, you're incompetent. In this financial year, Eskom is spending 7.5 billion rands. Last year, it spent 6.5 billion rands. So, there's a journalist that says, Mr. Koko burned diesel to keep the lights on, and they don't give evidence. Chairman, I use this opportunity to give it to you, that we never burnt diesel to keep the lights on. Chairman, let's go to page 8. Page 8 is very, very important because page 8 is what brings us here. We are accused of state capture. We knew what to do, Chairman. I told the CEOs that I worked with that all what we need to do at Eskom is to meet the demand that the customers want. Do that without burning diesel. And do that and still do the necessary maintenance that the fleet that is 36 years old requires. You've got enough capacity in the system. 2, drive down the cost of primary energy cost. And primary energy costs, we mean 3 things. We mean coal costs, we mean IPP costs, we mean the diesel cost. And you have to be brutal with that. Because if you are not brutal, you will die, they will survive. And when I had the opportunity to be brutal, I was brutal. And that is why you hear a lot of people who come to you and say, the management style of Mr. Koko, this and that. John Beck never took excuses from me. And in turn, I never took excuses from anybody else. We employed competent engineers. – Engineers that are competent don't need to be told what to do. they get led. But you don't tell a competent engineer what to do. An engineer that needs to be told what to do, you dispense of him or her, and you do that very quickly. That's what I did. The graph in page 9 tells you that in the history, and this is the graph that starts only in 2014, but the trend is...
Did you go back to page 9 now?
Page 8, I apologize.
Page 8,
Yes.
okay.
It shows the level of coal cost increases at Eskom. Eskom cost has been increasing, Mr. Chair, by a minimum of 15% year on year. It's in the extra Eskom yearbooks, you'll know it. Between 2007 and 2015, Eskom coal costs increased cumulatively by over 400%, against cumulative inflation of 74%. Eskom was bound to die. What you see in front of you in page 8, you'll see that the only time Eskom coal cost reduced was again in 2017 and 2018. Again in the time of Mr. Molefe and Dr. Ngubane. After we left in 2018, things went worse. At this stage, I want to go to tell you a very painful experience that I had in 2018, January. I think it was between either 20th or the 21st of January, 2018. It was over a weekend. I can't remember whether it was on Saturday or Sunday, and I was driving from Pretoria. And I just joined N1 from Pretoria. I got a call from then acting Deputy Director General in the Department of Public Enterprises, Ms. Makhola. And she said to me, she used to work for me, and she went to work for DPE. And then she says to me, Mr. Koko, we've talked for a very long time. I say, yes. I'm on suspension, so I avoid talking to you guys in case I put you into disrepute. So it's safer that I keep away from you. And in case you call me and it's a social charge, I suggest we don't proceed because we don't know where it will end up. He says, no, Mr. Koko, I called you out of respect and out of courtesy because I know you. I says, okay. He says, and it was around 5, just towards 5. He says the Deputy President is going to issue a media statement dismissing you. I says, oh, the Deputy President is going to issue a media statement dismissing me. How can I be dismissed by the Deputy President? What reason is he going to give? What reason am I being dismissed for? He says the new board will find a reason to dismiss you. We'll have to find a reason to dismiss you, but the instruction is that you must be dismissed. And he says, listen, I can't talk long. I thought it's respectful that I give you this talk, but the Deputy Minister who's sitting with me wants to talk to you. And then she gave the call to the Deputy Minister, then Deputy Minister Ben Martin. Deputy Minister Martin spoke in Setswana. And then he says, and I'm going to translate. He says, Mr. Koko, let's not discuss this thing. We thought that you don't hear from the media. This was just a respectful call. We thought we owe you the decency that this statement is going to come out, and that's what it is. I says, okay, thank you. And then I drove, before I could even get home, between Centurion and Johannesburg, headline news. Eskom new board appointed and Mr. Koko asked to resign. We ended up at the Labour Court, and the Labour Court was very emphatic that the decision by the Deputy President then was unlawful. I say this, Chair, because part of what you've been focusing on is on interference and regulation. And I am saying to you, the Deputy President interfered in the affairs of Eskom and fiddled with the board that has not even met. He says this is a new board, it has not met, but dismiss Mr. Koko. Go find reason to dismiss Mr. Koko. I deal with that in detail in my affidavit. What's more important here, and this is why I am saying I get a feeling that the investigators are not following the evidence, because that's an unlawful instruction, and I will link it later on to Optimum, because the chairman of Optimum in 2012 and 2014 was the same deputy president, when Eskom was not paid what was due to it at the tune of 1.4 billion rand. I will make a submission on the 11th to say Optimum is lying when it says they spent over R1 billion to buy Optimum mine without doing a due diligence. Glencore is a very sophisticated business to spend over R1 billion to buy Optimum without a due diligence. They did that. The chairman was Mr. Ramaphosa. They owed Eskom penalties of 1.4 billion rands. They never paid Eskom. And there's no reason to explain why the 1.5 billion rands was not paid to Eskom. It was due to Eskom. They queried the tariff, the coal price. The coal price that was a consequence of an arbitration in 2011. They refused to go to arbitration. When it became unreasonable and unpalatable to continue not to pay Eskom in 2014, they then concocted the famous cooperation agreement, which I argue is unlawful. And your investigators are not saying what is the authority that was relied on to sign this cooperation agreement. In my letter of last night, I said to you, Optimum, when they bought Glencore, when they bought Optimum, they had an ace up their sleeve, and the ace up their sleeve was the political connectivity of the current head of state. And that is why you cannot explain why Glencore did not pay Eskom the 1.5 that is due to it. When you say that, then people come in and say, but you gave it together. Let's listen to the dates. Between March 2012 to June 2014, Glencore did not pay Eskom 1.4 billion rands. Nobody at Eskom chased it. My friend and a colleague, former friend and colleague, Mr. Marokan, was sitting here. He was asked, how did the suspensions affect you? He was not asked, Mr. Marokan, why Eskom was not paid 1 billion rands under your watch. He was not asked that. Because your investigators are not following evidence.
Well, when he was here, he was dealing with suspensions. That might explain why, just like you will talk about the suspensions only and then come back later and deal with a lot of other transactions. That might explain why he might not have been asked a question that you thought was important to ask.
I accept that.
Yes.
I hope that one day they will come and explain why Optimum did not pay Eskom the 1.5 billion. And so Tigeta was not in the picture 2 years later. The recordings of 2015 March that have been referred to clearly say that we've got an elephant in the room. And there's recordings here. One of the biggest disappointments I have, and it hurts me, is that the minutes of Eskom that you read and the audios are chalk and cheese. And the privilege I have is that now I've listened to the audio, and I'm going to encourage your investigators not to only look at the minutes. The audio tells a different story. When you finally engage with the evidence, you will conclude that the real capture of Eskom is Glencoe. And the best we did was to deal with that, and that's what we've been criminalized. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Koko. What I want to say to you is it's important that the perspectives that you may have, part of which is what you were telling me, it's important that you finish them to the Commission in written form to the extent that you may not have done so. Because we are interested in all perspectives. But what happens is that some people give us information and they will say certain things about other people. And those other people don't give us information about those people. And then sometimes the Commission is accused of having evidence only coming from certain people. But when those other people don't give us the information, when everybody is welcome and invited to give the information, they deprive the Commission of the opportunity of seeing all perspectives. So if you haven't done so in terms of giving us all perspectives that you believe are relevant to the terms of reference of the Commission insofar as Eskom is concerned, please do so, particularly because you will still come back on the 11th. I would prefer it if whatever you might need to say, we've got it in written form. I know you have given us quite a detailed affidavit. For purposes of today, I've looked at those parts of that affidavit that are relevant to today's proceedings. But I think I've previously had a look at other parts. So, but if you have covered everything you wanted to put before us in that affidavit, then it's fine. But any other information that you may have which you think is relevant to our terms of reference, please feel free to finish it. Of course, I must just say that, as I said to another witness maybe 2 weeks ago, there is some limitation when we get new information at this stage because the Commission is close to the end of its lifespan. It would have been different and easier if we got information much earlier. There was time to investigate. Now it's quite limited. The ability to investigate and the opportunity is limited, but nevertheless, whatever you have which you believe is relevant, let us have.
Chairman, thank you. I really appreciate it. I will take advice from council, and I will waste no opportunity, and I will give it to you. Chairman, I forgot one thing, if you may allow me. If you go to page 10, if you go to page 10, this is the work that was done by CSIR. It shows load shedding since 2007. You will see that in 2015, we had very bad load shedding. Again, in 2016 and 2017, we had no load shedding. And then I got that famous letter, famous call, that says you will be dismissed, and I heard from the news that I will be dismissed. And look at what load shedding did afterwards. The consequences of that call is a load shedding of 2018, 2019, 2020. And at the bottom there, you'll see there's an amount of 87.50 is the cost of what we call the cost of load shedding per megawatt hour. It's the cost of unsafe energy. I want to make a submission to you. And this is the painful truth. And because the media are pursuing a particular line, but the difficulty you're going to be faced with that I'm submitting to you. The consequences of the statement by Mr. Ramaphosa in January 2021 was load shedding on 2018, 2019, and the cost as worked out by CSIR is 266 billion rands to the economy. That is the cost of the call that I received in January 2021. Finally, it's being alleged that I gave my daughter a billion rands contracts out of Eskom. It's also being alleged that I lied on national television. One of the things I had expected is that the people who says that come to present that evidence to you, or they go to the Hawks or to the police. And the police or the Hawks or you deal with that. For 4 years, I've been accused of giving my daughter a billion rands. For 4 years, I've not been talked to by the police or the law enforcement agencies or the commission about a billion rands. Do you know why? I never did it. And we will get into that detail because I know where that comes from. But it cannot be, Mr. Chair, that journalists, commentators continue to say I gave my daughter a billion rands and they have nothing to show for it. It cannot be. You know, there's a gentleman who made an affidavit, who submitted an affidavit. He went to Parliament and he said, I told Eskom board that even when Mr. Koko is acquitted by a disciplinary tribunal, he must still be dismissed because he lied on national television. And I said to my wife, you know, I wish the Chairman Zondo asked me about that because I'm going to ask the Chairman Zondo to put the carte blanche interview. And I'm going to say, Mr. Zondo, let's sit back, detect the lie. I'm hurt, I am pained, my kids are pained, my kids are hurt. Because people think that when they are in trouble, they must join the Koko hunt and they will have a sympathetic ear. All what we're going to discuss here is the evidence of weaknesses, two main weaknesses that are in trouble. One of them came here, did not even tell you that he's on a bail of 300,000 rands for fraud of corruption on charges that I pursued. The other one was on national talk show, and she says, I committed crime. And when she was asked, what do officers of a court do when they commit crime? He says, I expect to be arrested. And to get away with it, they join the Koko hunt and they think they will get an audience with you. But I will stop here and we will get to...
Yes, thank you, Mr. Koko. Mr. Selega?
Thank you, DCJ.
You may start.
Thank you, Chairperson. I was going to ask for the same thing in regard to this documentation, Chairperson, that it be supported by an affidavit explaining...
Yes, I think that would be quite convenient if it could be an annexure to an affidavit, Mr. Perry.
Yes.
Yes.
As you please, Chair.
Yes.
The issue here is, and it's something we addressed in the letter to you,
Yes.
is in terms of the directors of the Commission,
Yes.
the attention of witnesses are focused on very, very particular issues.
Yes.
They are not asked to give a general overview and so on and so forth.
Yes.
And we look forward to providing an affidavit during the course of next week.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Mr. Selega?
Thank you, Chair.
I think if you cut to the chase now, it will be fine because Mr. Koko has had a chance to deal with certain matters.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. So, Mr. Koko, the file before you, which is Eskom Bundle 15, has two affidavits of yours and one statement you submitted to the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee. The first affidavit, which is the second of the two affidavits, is on page 5. Now, the page numbers I'm referring to are on the left-hand corner, that's right, the black numbers, as opposed to the red numbers. So that's the first affidavit. It runs up to page 152. On page 5 to 152. And on page 152, there's a signature. Do you confirm that to be your signature?
Chairman, I do confirm that that's my signature.
The affidavit is dated 22 September 2020.
That's correct, Chair.
Thank you. You lowered your voice, Mr. Seleka. Yeah.
The affidavit is dated 22 September 2020.
Yes, okay.
That's correct, Chair.
Thank you.
Chairperson is already marked as an exhibit. Exhibit U27. Should we?
Well, mine is not marked. You would like it to be admitted as exhibit
27.1.
27.1.
Yes. 27.1. Thank you, Chair.
The affidavit of Mr. Machela Moses Koko, starting at page 5, will be admitted as exhibit U 27.1.
Yes. Then Mr. Koko, on page 971.
On page
971.
971.
It's another affidavit, which was the first affidavit you submitted to the Commission. It runs up to page 986. Chairperson, in between there's a thick bundle of annexures. I was saying in between there's a thick...
I am there, Chair. I am there.
Yes, okay, let's deal with this one first.
Yes. So it runs up to page 986. There too, there's a signature above your name, Machela Moses Koko. You confirm that to be your signature?
Chairman, I confirm that's my signature.
The affidavit is dated.
Well, doesn't look like it is an affidavit. Oh, there is a Commission of Oath certificate there.
Yes.
It's just that it's not legible. Okay, it is an affidavit.
Indeed, Chair, the heading on the first page is written submission, but it gets to be commissioned on the last page. The affidavit is dated 1 September 2020. And Chair, I'll beg leave to have it admitted as exhibit U27.2.
Mr. Koko has confirmed that this is one of his affidavits and that this signature, the first signature, well, maybe not the first, the signature above the name Machela Moses Koko is his.
That's correct, Chair.
Yes.
Thank you,
Okay.
Chair.
The affidavit of Mr. Machela Moses Koko, starting at page 971, is admitted as exhibit U27.2. Okay.
Chairman,
Oh, my learned friend wants me to put in the correcting affidavit. It's the 3-pager one.
Oh, okay, yeah, that can be done, but
Yes,
Yes.
the original of that we have handed up to you.
yes.
It is before you.
Yes.
Initially, and it would probably be appropriate then to mark that U27.3 or whatever.
Yes. Well, there's
would
still a
suit your
third one.
purposes.
There is still
Yeah, there's
a
still a
third one coming, which starts at 988.
correct, Chairperson.
Then I think that the supplementary affidavit
As you
can come after that one.
Correct, Chair.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
So on page 988, Chairperson, it's a written submission. This one, it is a submission. It's not under oath by Mr. Machela Koko, given at the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee. It runs up to page 1046.
That's correct, Chair.
Yeah.
And the signature is definitely mine.
Yes, okay.
The submission is dated 21 January 2018. Beg your pardon.
The written submission of Mr. Machela Moses Koko starting at page 988 is admitted as Exhibit U 27.3.
Thank you, Chair.
Excuse me. And I think we can then do the supplementary affidavit quickly.
Sorry. Mr. Perry, my junior doesn't have.
I have got it, Mr. Koko. That affidavit has got 1, 2, 3, 4 pages, and then the last page 5 is just, I think, the Commission of Oath certificate. You confirm that that is your affidavit, the one that has been handed up by your counsel?
Yes, I do, Chair.
Okay, and there are 2 signatures on page 4 of that affidavit. The third one is that of the deponent. Would that you confirm that that's your signature? The one that is above the name deponent.
Chairman, I don't have it in front
You
of me.
don't have it in front of you. Registrar, please take and.
Thank you, sir.
The signatures are on page 4.
Yes, sir.
That is your signature
I
just
do know
above.
this document, and it's my document.
Yes, okay, all right. Mr. Selega, you want me to admit it as Exhibit U 27.4?
Correct.
27.4?
Point 4, yes.
Yes, okay. Mr. Koko's affidavit, it will start at page 1047. Will be admitted as Exhibit U 27.4. Okay, all right, then let's continue.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Koko, we have read your affidavits in regard to your appointment as Eskom. Evidence has extensively been laid. And it's evident from your affidavits that you were an employee of Eskom until, I think you say, until your resignation on the 16th of February 2018.
That's correct. That's correct, Chair.
And that also you were an employee back in March 2015, at least before you, even during the suspension, you're still an employee, March 2015. And can you remind us again what was your position at the time in March 2015?
I was the acting Group Executive Technology and Commercial.
Technology and Commercial. Which position was your permanent position?
I was the Divisional Executive Technology.
Yeah.
Chairman, my apologies. I was confirmed in the job. I was no longer acting.
Oh, okay.
I was confirmed in the job. I was no longer acting.
In this position?
In that position.
Of GE Technology and Commercial?
Technology and Commercial.
Yeah. Now, Mr. Koko, this is a commission that investigates to get the facts. And I welcome your statement that you want to assist the commission to get to the truth in your opening address. Could you tell the chairperson, have you spoken to any of the witnesses who has testified here before the commission?
You want to indicate when you are asking him in terms of when you would like to know whether he has spoken in the last month, in the last week? In the last few months?
Recently, either towards the end of November.
I have not spoken to the people suspended.
You can tell me which of the witnesses.
Or the weaknesses.
Yeah.
The weaknesses. I have not spoken to any of the weaknesses that came to speak here.
You have not sent.
I've not spoken, the only person, I've not spoken to Ms. Veletti, I've not spoken to Mr. Marokane, I've not spoken to, the only person I spoke to was Dr. Beningubani.
Have you not recently spoken to or communicated by text with Mr. Matuna?
I've spoken to Mr. Matuna. I've communicated to
Yes.
Mr. Matuna by text, yes.
Yes. Because I was wondering why you didn't mention him in the names that you mentioned.
I've communicated, I've not, I had a text discussion with Mr. Matuna, yes.
What was it about?
I received a 3.3 notice.
What was your text message about?
I cut and pasted the 3.3 notice, a section on Mr. Matuna that he sent to me, that I received, which really shocked me. I said, but Mr. Matuna, this is shocking because it's false.
You cut and pasted what? You said a 3.3 notice.
I had a 3.3 notice
Yes.
Which came from the commission.
which came from the commission, which was a lie.
In respect of which witness was it?
Mr. Matuna,
Mr. Matona's statement or affidavit?
yes.
Okay, all right. So you were sent a 3.3 notice by the commission and either the whole affidavit of Mr. Matona or a portion of it?
Yes, a
Yes,
portion,
okay.
just a portion.
Or a portion was sent, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
So, sorry, Sharon. So which portion was that?
I note Mr. Koko's role in the suspension. It was something of that.
Yes.
I note Mr. Koko's role in the suspension of the 4 executives. It was something to that effect.
Yeah, and what did you say to him?
I posted to him and put question marks, I think. I don't remember. I just put question marks, I think.
Yes, so what message are you communicating to him?
Why do you lie?
Did you say that?
No, I didn't. You asking me what message to you was I communicating to him?
Yes.
Yes.
But how will you know? How will he know you are saying why you're lying if you're not spelling it out?
I don't understand the question now.
You didn't write anything. You said you put question marks. So I'm asking you, what message?
Either I put a question mark. No. Yeah, I sent it to him and he immediately phoned back.
Mr.
You sent him a portion of
His
his
statement.
affidavit,
I sent him a portion of his statement,
yes, that you considered to
which
be
I
not true.
considered to be
Not true.
not true.
And you put a question mark.
No,
You did not put a question mark.
Chairman, either I put a question mark or I
Yeah.
just send the message, but he immediately called back.
Oh, you sent it to him and then he called back.
Yes.
Okay, all right. Yes.
Are you in in pursuit of the truth, willing to share that SMS with the Commission? Not now, but after this.
Oh, yes, certainly. If I still, yeah, oh, certainly, I hope I still have it. Yeah.
I can't hear.
I will send it to you, certainly.
Okay. So the two of you spoke,
The two of us spoke.
and did you explain yourself the text you sent to him?
Actually, he did more the talking than...
Yeah, but my question is, did you explain your message to him?
No, he called me, and I think he understood the point.
Mr. Koko, did you explain
No.
your message to him?
No, I did not.
Why not?
Because he immediately started talking.
So are you saying Mr. Matuna did the talking, say goodbye, and you never said a word?
No, I responded to his explanation of what that cut and paste meant.
So if he says to me that you were fuming on the phone saying he is throwing you under the bus, is that not the truth?
No, that's not the truth.
It's not the truth.
No.
Okay. So I should ask him to provide us with an affidavit.
No, you must do that.
Okay. Now, you have provided us with your affidavits dealing in part with the suspensions.
Yes.
And you have dealt with the issues of suspension quite at length to demonstrate what reasons you believe you were suspended for.
Yes.
Now, you were asked at the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee, why didn't you deal with what Ms. Suzanne Daniel had submitted to the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee in regard to the meeting at Melrose Arch? That portion was not contained in your affidavit, in your written submission, and indeed it is not contained there. And it was put to you that is because you couldn't deal with it. It is the truth.
No, that's not the truth.
Can I start from here? Mr. Koko, when did you learn for the first time that you were going to be suspended in March 2015?
Chairman, you know, on the 8th of March 2018, I had a very long discussions with Mr. Matona.
Mr. Matona?
With Mr. Matona.
Yeah, on the 8th of March.
Yes.
Okay.
And it was a continuation of the long telephone calls on the 7th of March. And
between the two of you, even on the 7th of March?
On the 7th of March,
Yeah.
yes. And that is why it's very important for the telephone records to be made available. Because I am certain the telephone records will confirm that. And Mr. Matuna was very concerned about the approach from Mr. Tsotsi, that Mr. Koko is running amok and has suspended Malisela, Mr. Sikasimbe, for no apparent reason, and has instructed Mr. Matuna to make sure that we unsuspend Malisela. And I said to him, no, Chief, I cannot. There's a valid reason for that. And I will make the documents available to you when we first went on the following day on the 10th. And I did that. And then he said to me, Chief, we are going to be suspended if we don't unsuspend Malisela.
He said we,
Yes, he said
meaning
we.
yourself and him.
Yes. He says
Yes.
we are going to be suspended if you don't bring Malisela back.
Yeah.
I said, but Chief, we can't. We can't. He says it's very difficult for me to deal with Mr. Tsotsi because his mind is made. I said, but Chief, look at the documents. I've given them to you. Then I disappeared from the office. The following day, he then called me again and said, Chief, we've got the meeting here. The minister is attending.
That is on
the 11th.
On the 11th.
On the 11th.
Yeah.
The chairman is attending. The minister is attending. And then he showed me WhatsApp messages. Not WhatsApp messages, text messages. And he said to me, look at these text messages. I'm getting threatened. Mr. Tsotsi is threatening me with these text messages. Mr. Tsotsi is even saying, this is not the first problem you've had with him. There was a gas transaction that you refused to cooperate. And this cannot continue. I said, when I wrote my affidavit, I asked Mr. Matuna for those text messages. He says, let me have those text messages because I want to include them in my affidavit. He promised to give them to me. He never did, and that's why I did not include them because I will not be able to back up. It's going to be, he says. I would have wanted to do that. But now that I have read his replying affidavit, that's why I'm mentioning it. So I've learned for the first time about the possibility of our suspension through the telephone call on the 9th of March, on the evening. It was a very long call, Chairman. And that call spends more than, if I recall, more than 10 minutes. But the telephone records will show that.
Okay, Mr. Seleka.
Thank you, Chair.
And then maybe I must ask, that was about your, excuse me, that was about you learning about your possible suspension, maybe you and Mr. Matona. Is that right?
Correct.
And when did you hear or learn for the first time about the possible or the suspension of yourself, Mr. Matona, and the other two executives?
Chairman, I learned of the rest of the suspensions on the evening of March 2011 when they happened.
March 11.
March 11,
Yes.
2015 when they happened.
Okay. Mr. Selega?
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Koko, we don't have the telephone records between you and Mr. Matuna. Are you able to provide the Commission with those telephone calls of 8 March and 9 March 2015?
And the 7th, I think he said, 7th March.
Definitely.
Definitely. Thank you. Now, we hear for the first time from you that you were shown text messages by Mr. Matuna
That's
on the
correct.
11th.
Are you saying, are you hearing for the first time?
Yes.
You are hearing for the first time?
Yeah, I didn't come across that in your affidavits.
No, but I just said to you, I just said to the chairman, I asked Mr. Matuna, he promised to give them to me because I wanted to include them. And when he failed to give them to me, I then kept that out because I can't back it up.
Yes.
I wanted to say, these are the messages, but he could not give it to me. So I did not want to say he said, they said.
Those would have been messages on his phone,
Those are the SMS messages between him and Mr. Tsotsi.
which you say he had shown you on which date? 11th,
on the 11th of March,
yes.
threatening him.
Oh, okay. Threatening him
Yes,
with what? With suspension?
threatening him that he's failing to deal with me.
Oh, okay. Mr. Selega?
Yes, but I'm saying the very explanation you are giving now, that you were not given the text messages, it too is not in your affidavit.
Because, Chairman, for me, that I did not expect, it did not matter to me. It did not, that line did not matter to me because my affidavit was telling the real issues. So my messaging was coming across. I was saying in my messages, I did not say also in my messages that Mr. Matuna called me on the evening of March 2011, on Saturday. It did not matter. All what mattered to me to convey to you is that Mr. Matuna told me that on Sunday evening. I said that at the Parliamentary Commission. I repeated it in my affidavit. The SMSs and the threatening messages, because I did not have them, I did not think that that's relevant and adequate. But I put it to you, Chairman. I put it to you that if Mr. Matuna denies it, I'll be extremely surprised. I'll be shocked. I'll question his motive.
Yeah, but you need to give him the opportunity in your affidavit explaining that I asked him, he showed me these text messages, I asked him to provide them to me, and he failed to do so. That's why I don't have them. So that when you come here, he has had the opportunity to look at your affidavit and say yay or nay to that allegation.
Chairman, that's why the supplementary affidavits. I received this Mr. Matuna supplementary affidavit. I've not responded to it in total. I've read it. I've not responded to the other supplementary affidavit. But when we do, we'll mention it. Remember that it was a supplementary affidavit of Mr. Matuna. Mr. Matuna did not say in his original affidavit that we talked, or we did not talk. When he denied it, I saw a need that when I come here, I must deal with it. If I had the opportunity to put a supplementary affidavit, I would have dealt with it. But I did not expect Mr. Matuna to deny or disown that we had a telephone conversation on March 11. I did not expect him to do that. His supplementary affidavit says we could not have talked on the phone, we talked the following day. Now that calls for a response.
I'm not sure which point you're dealing with. I'm asking you, for him to deal with your version, you have to put it in writing, in your affidavit, or even way back in 2018, when you did your written submission to the Parliamentary Portfolio Committee. It is still fresh in your mind.
No, Chair.
I haven't finished. Then he has the opportunity to say yay or nay to your version, as we have done here in respect of your affidavit. We gave him your affidavit. We say, Mr. Koko says this about you. What is your response? Because this is an investigatory commission.
No, Chair. I don't accept that. I was not accusing Mr. Matuna of anything. I was telling my version. The issue is, how did I know of my suspension? I learned of my suspension on 8th of March 2017. That's what I sought to convey to the Parliament. That's what I sought to convey to you as a chairman of this commission. The threatening messages does not explain to you where I got to know about the suspension. The answer I was answering at all material times is, when did I know? And when did I know? Is 11th of March. the story grows legs when there's a supplementary affidavit.
So,
May I just point out?
Yes.
that the witness's affidavit that is before you is dated the 22nd of September of 2020, while Mr. Matona's supplementary affidavit, in terms of which he denies having spoken to Mr. Koko on the 8th of September, on the 8th of March, is dated the 28th of October 2020, more than a month later.
yes, Mr. Koko, we're dealing with your version, and it seems you don't have...
Maybe let me put it this way and see whether I will capture what you
Yes, Chair.
what you have in mind. If the position, Mr. Koko, is or was that you were suspended because Mr. Tsotsi, as I understand your affidavit, was unhappy that you did not accede on your version to his suggestion or request, I don't know if it was a demand, that the suspension of Mr. is it Sakasimbe, the official who had been suspended. Is it Mr. Sakasimbe?
Sikasimbe.
Sikasimbe, yeah. If your version was, my suspension really was because of Mr. Tsotsi, who was unhappy that I had refused to ensure the withdrawal of the suspension of Mr. Sikasimbe. And you were aware that prior to your suspension, or maybe on the day that you were suspended, Mr. Matona had shown you messages exchanged between himself and Mr. Tsotsi, which included messages or a message from Mr. Tsotsi, which was threatening, or maybe threatening to suspend you, both of you, or threatening whatever, but in connection with this point, whether the suspension of Mr. Sikasimbe should be withdrawn. Wouldn't that have been something quite important that you would have wanted to put in your affidavit, irrespective of what Mr. Matona says when you tell your story of how and why you were suspended?
Chairman, it would not hurt. It would not hurt. Originally, when I said earlier, when I was putting together my affidavit for this commission, not for the parliamentary inquiry, frankly, at the parliamentary inquiry, it did not matter to me. That part did not matter to me. But I've put my affidavit here after listening to a lot of Mr. Tsotsi's submissions. And Mr. Zola Tsotsi's submission, I have a nice way of putting it, but I would respect this commission and not say it. But made me to want to dig more and prove my case. And one of the things I remembered, I said, hey, but Mr. Matuna showed me these messages. And then I've asked him, can I have them? He says, I will look. And he went and look, and he never found it. And I did not want to sit here and argue there was and there wasn't, there was and there wasn't. You know,
Okay.
I left it because the important part for me is answered. How did I know? The only reason it is becoming material is because of his response affidavit that comes a month later after mine. And then I sit back and say, maybe I should have put this. Maybe I should have put the calls as well, because I did not put the calls either.
Okay.
I did not put the calls, I did not, but when, all these things matters, Mr. Chair, when there's a dispute. When there's no dispute, then they don't matter. But now that there's a dispute, then you sit back and say, then how do I prove my case? And then you go and dig.
Yes, Mr. Seleka.
Thank you, Chair. Yes, so you have said it for the third or fourth time that the text messages didn't matter to you. The threatening text messages you say or allege that Mr. Matuna showed you, they didn't matter to you.
The
Yes or no? You've said it 3 times or 4 times.
yes, they did not matter.
Mr. Koko, it's a yes or no.
Hang on, just repeat the question, Mr. Seleka.
You said it 3 to 4 times.
Let me hear the question.
But
then I can
I have to
evaluate.
object to that type of question. It is
Yeah.
not for the evidence leader to limit a witness's answers.
Yeah. Let me
He has
just
to
hear.
ask a proper question as behoves an advocate of his status.
Chair, I'll answer yes or no.
Hang on one second.
Okay, he said he answered.
Let
But
me
don't
hear the
state-
question.
The
There
question-
are questions which do require a yes or no answer. There are questions which don't, and there may be a situation where there is a need for clarification.
Yes, Chair.
So what was the question?
The question was, he said it repeatedly here, 3 to 4 times, that the threatening text messages that were allegedly shown to him by Mr. Matuna didn't matter to him.
And
No,
what's the
no,
question?
No, Chairman.
Do you want him to confirm that he
Next-
said that?
Yeah, first
Chairperson-
you must confirm what I said.
Hang on
it or
one
not.
second.
Yeah.
Did you want him to confirm that he has said that?
That's right, Chairperson.
Oh, okay, all right. Mr. Koko, do you confirm that you said that?
Chairperson, may I say something?
Okay,
Let
yeah.
me let him answer.
Let him answer first. Mr.
Chair,
Koko?
I'm going to ask to answer yes or no.
Yes.
But you will have to allow me after I've said yes or no.
Yeah.
To put it
Yeah,
up.
yes.
I say yes. Yes, it did not matter to Parliament. It did not matter to Parliament. Once there was a dispute, a month later, after the supplementary affidavit of Mr. Matona, it mattered. Then I went to look for it.
Okay.
Thank
Yes,
you,
you
Chair.
wanted to say something?
Yes, my learned friend uttered a perverse word, Chairperson. And I think,
I can't hear? I said he's talking nonsense, yes.
no, Chair,
Sorry?
no.
I'm not going to get involved in this type of nonsensical argument with my learned friend.
No. Mr. Berry, that's not very collegial.
Yeah.
It's not very collegial to say this. Let's try and focus on the work. Mr. Seleka, you wanted to?
Yes, I could continue, Chairperson. He uttered a swearing word. You did, Mr. Berry. Yeah, there you go. Just
No,
repeat it again to the Chairperson. That's what he said.
Mr. Berry,
It was sotto voce, and I apologize to my learned friend.
yeah, it's not. Let's adjourn and let me see Mr. Berry and Mr. Selega in my chambers.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay, we are going to adjourn.
All right.
Chair, if I may,
Yes.
I again apologize to my learned friend for offending him. But I must point out, though, Chair, that in terms of the regulations of this commission, in particularly Regulation 8.3, any witness appearing before the commission may be cross-examined by a person only if the chairman permits it. Such cross-examination should he deem it necessary and in the best interest of the function of the commission. That is the regulations under which we operate here. I am aware of the rules. I'm aware of the rules stating that the commission, that questions can be asked by the legal team. But the rule 3.7 and all of the rules
Well, let's
remain subject
Let's
to...
separate. I'll give you a chance to deal with that issue. I just want to deal with the issue that arose before we adjourned.
Very well.
Yeah. Mr. Berry used language that I consider unacceptable in speaking to the evidence leader, Mr. Selega. He has apologized to Mr. Selega and to the commission, and I hope that going forward there will be collegiality, as is to be expected between council, and we will proceed on that basis. Thank you. Okay, Mr. Berry, you have something else that you want to raise?
Yes, I raised the issue of Regulation 8.3.
Yes.
8.3 of the, which is the overarching in terms of which this commission exercises its
Yes.
powers, etc.
Yes.
The rules are subservient to the regulations. And that is something that has to be taken into account. I'm aware of the fact that the regulations make provision for the evidence leader to ask questions aimed at assisting the commission in assessing the truthfulness of the evidence of a witness. But in terms of the regulation, unless you, in the interests of the work of the commission, believe that cross-examination is appropriate, it is not allowed. So there is somewhere, there must be a line to be drawn by you regarding what Rule 3.2 allows and what is allowable in terms of Regulation 8.3. We don't, my learned friend can ask the witness questions, and unfortunately, if these type of questions are asked, and they're clearly within the realm of cross-examination, it does put us in different camps, as opposed to somebody who asks questions to elucidation, so as to assist the work of the commission. So, and my learned friend, I believe, has overstepped the mark set in terms of Regulation 8.3, and the same applies to Regulation 3.7. But I am not going to venture further into that particular arena. That is for you to decide.
Yes, I'm not looking at the rules at the moment. What I can say is that there might be a very fine distinction, if any, between cross-examination and questioning to establish the truth in certain circumstances. Sometimes it's easier to tell, sometimes it might not be easy. But as for now, I had not picked up anything that I thought would would be unfair. I'm not looking at the rules at the moment, so maybe let's proceed and then let's see. But I've not picked up anything that I found objectionable. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Mr. Slay.
Yeah, just quickly, Chair, I think the point Mr. there is raising, he has answered it himself by reference to that rule. That's one. Number two, but it doesn't call for bad language. The objection can be made, but you can't do it in the manner it was done. But we've passed that. We accept the apology. Chair.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you.
Let's continue.
Yes. Mr. Koko, in your affidavit, and you contend there, the first one, well, when I say the first one in your bundle. If you turn to page 29. Page 29, starting from paragraph 92. You specifically refer to what you say Mr. Matona told you. Mr. Matona then informed me that if I refuse to unsuspend Mr. Sikasimbi, Mr. Tsotsi would have us suspended. You see that?
Yes, I see, Chair.
It's a threat of suspension, isn't it?
That's correct.
Mr. Selega, I think it's going to, the public is going to follow Mr. Makoko's evidence and understand it correctly if we do it differently.
Okay.
Because we have read his affidavit. We know what he says, what his version is, but the public hasn't read it. So they just hear about the suspension of Mr. Sikasimbi. They don't know where that comes in. So I think it's important that he tells me about that suspension, because how it came about, and his discussion with Mr. Tsotsi, so that the public can understand his version in that regard properly. So I think if you can ask him to talk about what the whole issue was about Mr. Sikasimbe's suspension. So what was he suspended for, and who suspended him? And then the meeting or discussion he had with Mr. Tsotsi, and then the rest can come after that.
Yes. Thank you, Chairperson. Yes, Mr. Koko, I think that, well, following up on the question the Chairperson had asked you earlier, which was, when did you become aware that you were going to be suspended? You have given an answer to that, and now, as the Chairperson has suggested, maybe we could deal with how did your suspension come about? You could give us what is your version in regard to how the suspensions came about. Your suspension came about.
Chairman, thank you. Let me say from the beginning that Mr. Tsotsi and I had a very difficult relationship. And I want to refer to the affidavit of Mr. Johan Bester that is before this commission. And I want to refer in particular to paragraph 21 and paragraph 22 of that code. Mr. Bester talks to a meeting that was called by Mr. Tsotsi around March 2014 to address the primary energy team, members of my staff, without talking to me. Eskom is, contrary to many things you hear, Eskom is a highly governed, highly regulated business. The chairman of Eskom is not executive, and there's nothing in the delegations of authority that enables him or that he can rely on to address the members of my staff. But I went to that meeting, and we actually walked together to that meeting. But before I could do that, I went to the CE at the time, Mr. Machila, and there's a big difference, Mr. Chair, between Mr. Machila
and Mr. Machila.
In the same way, there's a big difference between Seleka and Seleke.
Yeah.
So, and I asked the CE, my boss then, what is this meeting all about? He says, I don't know. Which meeting? There's no such. I says, no, but the chairman is going to address my whole department. Mr. Machila did not want to get involved. He just shook his head and walked out, but I walked to the meeting. In that meeting, and Mr. Bester describes it quite nicely, and he testified here, and one of my discomfort is that he was not asked to expand on that, and this is why I'm saying evidence has not been followed. People have been followed because there's enough in that paragraph 21, 22 to follow and appreciate the conduct of Mr. Tsotsi when we talk about interference in operational issues. He told members of my staff, and I was there, and he said, we are doing anything and everything to disadvantage black coal suppliers. Mr. Bester also talks about coal trackers. I don't recall about the coal trackers. I recall about the coal transporters, the coal suppliers. It was a very difficult address. He was very accusatory to my team. Mr. Bester says after the address, Ms. Maharaj stood up and cordially closed the meeting. It was not Ms. Maharaj, it was actually me. I could not allow a confrontation of my staff who are forced to defend themselves because they've just been accused by the chairman, and to and fro. So I said to the chairman, I'm hearing this for the first time. I will go and discuss with my team, and we'll come back to you. Suzanne later came back to me and said,
Is that Miss Susan Daniels?
Miss Daniels, yes. Miss Daniels actually came back to me and said, actually, the coal contracts that Mr. Tsotsi says we are delaying are actually the Brackfontein Teketa contracts.
Let's go back to the meeting.
Yes.
What are the main points that Mr. Tsotsi conveyed to that meeting, apart from saying your team, I don't know if he directed this to you, at your team or Eskom in general, where that your team was disadvantaging black coal suppliers? What were the main points?
There was one single important point.
Yeah.
Mr. Tsotsi conveyed to my team, and I was part of it, and very junior staff. He called everybody. The wall was full with my junior staff. And he says he's had complaints from coal suppliers that we are delaying the conclusions of their negotiations to conclude their contracts.
Okay. So then you closed the meeting.
Then I says, but
Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I should be accounting to you about these allegations. I don't know them. My team is ready to respond to you, and I don't think it's right. So I closed the meeting. But Mr. Daniels comes to me and says, actually, the contract that Mr. Tsotsi says we are delaying is the Tegeta Brackfontein contract. So I do confirm that the affidavit, paragraph 21 of Mr. Bester is correct. Interestingly, the Brackfontein contract eventually was signed by Mr. Bester and Mr. Mbweni on the 10th of March, day before I was suspended,
10th of March 2015.
2015. In his affidavit, Mr. Bester says the contract that he negotiated and signed with Brackfontein together, he has no doubt that was a lawful contract. That's Mr. Bester in the affidavit before you. And the only reason that went wrong was when Mr. Koko started interfering and suspending the people who are managing coal qualities. I always say God is on the side of Moses, because we now know through the North Gauteng High Court that 3.7 billion rands that Mr. Bester said was lawful, that he negotiated and concluded, has been set aside as unlawful. And Mr. Tsotsi came here and says, Tony Gupta told me, we appointed you, you work for us, now we have fallen out of favor. But the Tegeta contract that we were accused of was Mr. Tsotsi's one. I did not know that I aggrieved Mr. Tsotsi when I dealt with the gas contract. I only learned about it when Mr. Matsona talked about those threatening messages through the SMS. I was shocked, I did not know. All what I did with the gas contract was to put my foot down, took no prisoners, acted in the best interest of Eskom. I've only learned through this affidavit of Mr. Tsotsi here that actually the gas contract was the OCGT contracts at Ankrelech and Kharikwa.
So may I
Okay,
ask,
remember
Now,
that.
now I'm giving you.
We'll talk later about those.
Yes, I'm giving you
The context.
the contract, the context.
Yeah.
My submission is that we did not have a good relationship with Mr. Tsotsi because of Mr. Tsotsi's fiddling in the operational affairs that it does not belong to. Around June 2014.
sorry, Mr.
Yeah.
Koko, just before you move on, just 2 points I need clarity on. Did you say the Tegeta contract was Mr. Tsotsi's contract?
I'm saying the Tegeta contract
Yes.
that was set aside by the North Gauteng High Court, the 3.7 billion rands, it's the same contract that Ms. Daniels told me.
Yeah, but did you say it's Mr. Tsotsi's contract? Or no?
No, you
Okay.
No.
The meeting you
Okay,
referenced.
let's get that. Mr. Koko, when you shake your head, that won't be captured by the recording. You need to say no.
No. I did not say the Tegeta contract is Mr. Tsotsi's contract.
Okay, all right.
I did say the Tegeta contract of Brankenfeld is a contract that Mr. Tsotsi referred to when he took my staff to task in March 2014, that is referenced by Mr. Johan Bester in his paragraph 21 and 22 of his affidavit, and I confirm that that is correct.
Okay. All right.
So that meeting you're referring to about Mr. Bester, is that the meeting that took place in March 2014?
That's correct.
Okay, then you can proceed.
In June 2014, around June 2014, Mr. Tsotsi walked into my office. He had a full-time office at Megwat Park. He walked into my office.
Yes.
And discussed the issue of Mr.
Sikasimbe.
Sikasimbe.
What was the issue of Mr. Sikasimbe at that time?
That, no, he did not discuss the issue of Mr. Sikasimbe. He discussed the issue of Simutomo.
The issue of
Simutomo.
Semutomo, yeah.
Yes. Simutomo had apparently written to him to ask for his intervention.
Remind us what his position was at Eskom.
No, Simutomo was a supplier.
As a supplier, okay. Mr. Sekasimbe was an official.
Mr. Sekasimbe was the general manager commodity sourcing.
Yes, okay.
So, let me, Chairperson, Sumitomo is a Japanese company that
Manufacturers,
Mr. Koko will then explain what the position was with this Japanese company.
that manufactures transformers. They had apparently written to Mr. Tsotsi and say, Eskom placed a contract with us. We've done a job to the tune of 69 million rands, and Eskom is refusing to pay us. I says, I don't know much about it. I've heard about it. My team has investigated it. I had it on the corridor stock. Once I am familiar, in fact, I said to Mr. Tsotsi, I was very polite to him because he's an old man. But I basically told him that whether you are right or wrong, it's none of your business. You are an executive chairman.
You may have been interrupted by Mr. Selega's question. You had said Mr. Tsotsi walked into your office.
Yes.
Yeah, but
Yes.
you had not said what he said, what
Yes.
the discussion was about.
Now, but before that, then the transaction, then I had all of a sudden, there's a letter that was signed committing Eskom to pay Sumitomo 69 million rands.
Is that before your discussion with Mr. Tsotsi when you walked into your office, or is that after, when you became aware of such a letter?
That's before.
Before.
That's before.
Who had signed that letter?
Mr. Tsotsi signed that letter.
Who was it addressed to?
It was addressed to the CEO, chairman of Sumitomo,
And what was the gist of the content of the letter?
that Eskom commit to pay Sumitomo 69 million rands.
69 million rand.
Yes.
And your understanding of this 69 million rand at that time was that it was supposed to be for what?
Well, my team had done an investigation. My team had briefed me that Sumitomo is not entitled to 69 million rands. It's not, it's Sumitomo.
In terms of the letter, what did the letter say the 69 million rand was for?
The letter was saying, we commit to come to your workshops to investigate, to do inspections of the transformers that have been manufactured for Eskom. And once their inspection is done, they will then be delivered to Eskom, and Eskom will pay 69 million rands.
Yes, okay. You knew nothing about this, and your team had investigated, and what did they find? What had they found?
My team was very clear and very emphatic that there was no need. And there is no order number. Eskom don't need these things. And it then explained to me why there was a squabble between Mr. Tsotsi and Malesela, who wants to pay, and the team that is doing the real work. Because the team that's doing the real work, say, no, we've not placed an order. There is no order number. So we can't even go and inspect because we don't need these things. So I said to Mr. Tsotsi,
So what did he say? Did he talk about this particular issue when he came to your
no,
office?
he came to my office and said, why don't you pay these people?
What did he say?
Why don't you pay these people?
Why don't you pay these people?
Yes.
Meaning...
Sumitomo.
Yes, right. And what did you say?
And I said in a very polite way, I told you first, there is no order number. There is no goods received, so we can't do what we call in Eskom procurement processes a three-way matching. But thirdly, lastly, I'm not taking this matter any further. For me, it's dead. And I remember what he told me.
What did he tell you?
You are stubborn, I'll sort you out.
You are stubborn and I will sort you out.
Yes.
Okay. Is that how your discussion ended on that day?
That's how the discussion ended.
And that was 2014?
That was 2014.
Do you remember around which month, more or less?
It was after June.
After June.
Yes.
Okay, all right.
It was after June.
And then, when did, was there any further discussion between yourself and Mr. Tsotsi about this issue before your suspension in 2015?
So on this, towards the end of March, towards the middle of March
2015.
I picked
But
up,
before you were suspended?
before I was suspended, I picked up that the letter was signed.
The letter was?
Was signed.
When you had known about the letter before he came to your office in 2014, the letter had not been
The
signed,
letter has not been signed.
but you had seen it? Or you had been told about it?
No. What I had seen when he came to my office was a Sumitomo letter,
Or which was complaining?
which was complaining.
Yeah, but at that stage, were you aware that there was already a letter purporting to be from him, or did that only happen in 2015?
No, that happened in 2015.
In 2015?
That happened in
Oh,
2015.
okay, all right. So when did you see this letter that was signed by him?
Actually not.
You did not see
No.
it, but you were told that it
I was told the
existed?
letter is signed.
Yes. And who told you about this letter?
Chairman, I don't remember, but what I do remember is that once I heard about it, I wrote Malisala an email, Mr. Sikasimbe. I said, Mr. Sikasimbe, I've since learned that there's a letter being signed by the chairman. I direct you to regularize it and go to the Tana Committee for condonation.
Now, this would have been when in 2015? Around January, February?
Chairman, that would have been first quarter. I don't.
Because your suspension was on the 11th.
Yes, so Mr. Sikasimbe was suspended on the 2nd of March.
Or Mr. Kasimbi was suspended on the 2nd of March?
Yes.
Oh, okay. So when you were suspended on the 11th, it was only about 2 weeks after Mr. Sakimbe
Yes.
has been, yeah.
Yes.
And you made the decision to suspend him?
Yes.
Yes, okay, all right. So between the meeting, the discussion you had with Mr. Tsotsi when you came into your office in 2014, in the second half of 2014, and the 2nd of March when you suspended Mr. Kasimbe, had the two of you, namely you and Mr. Tsotsi, ever discussed this issue again?
No.
You had not discussed the issue
No,
again?
I don't.
It
I
had
don't
never
remember.
arisen?
Chairman, I don't remember discussing with him. I don't think I did.
Yes, okay, all right. So you suspended Mr. Sikasimbe. What was the reason for suspending Mr. Sikasimbe?
I suspended him pending investigations.
Yes. What was the allegation that led to his suspension?
So there was a clear instructions from me to him in
Yeah.
writing that he must not sign the letter. We're not going to pay this.
He must not,
We're not going to pay.
yeah, you won't pay,
We will
yeah.
not pay.
As Eskom,
As
yeah.
Eskom, this thing is dead.
Yes. Yeah.
Then I later found out that the letter is signed.
Now, the letter that you were told is signed, you were told was a letter by whom to whom?
It was a letter that was originated by Mr. Sikasimbe. It was signed by Mr. Tsotsi.
Okay, but you, at that stage, you had not seen the letter, but you were told about it?
Yes.
Okay, you can't remember who told you about it?
No, I can't remember.
Did you ask Mr. Kasimbi about it
I sent
before
him,
suspending him?
Yes, I called him. I even
Yes.
emailed him. I even emailed it.
Yes. What did he say about the existence or non-existence of that letter?
Chairman, he had the support of the chairman. So,
But what did he say? Did he say he knew about the letter? He knew the letter, it existed?
oh yeah, there was no dispute about the letter.
He admitted
No, there was
that-
no dispute about the
Yes,
letter. Yes.
but he didn't show it to you, he didn't produce it, you didn't
No,
ask for it?
there was no dispute about the letter.
Yeah. So Did he explain how it came about, the letter?
How he came about.
How the letter came about? Did he draft it for the chairperson or what?
Chairman, there was a hearing
Yes,
There was
afterwards.
afterwards, and there was an evidence led, and there's there a sequence of events is nicely tabulated in I think it's MK33.
Yeah.
And the senior counsel who chaired the meeting was satisfied that the letter was actually originated from Mr. Sikasimbi. And he was also satisfied that the letter is unlawful. So
Was he found guilty of something?
he was found guilty, and the sanctions was a dismissal,
Yes,
which I implemented
yes. That was now, did that happen after you came back from
after my
suspension?
suspension.
Yes, so when you were suspended, Mr. Kasimbe was also on suspension.
Mr. Sikasimbi was-
And when you came back, the issue had not been finalized.
Correct.
Yeah, and then it was finalized, you implemented
Correct.
the dismissal
Correct.
that had been recommended by the chairperson.
Correct.
Okay. So the dismissal, therefore, of Mr. Kasimbe and his suspension centered around this letter that you understood had been signed by Mr. Tsotsi,
Correct.
committing Eskom to paying 69 million rand for something that you regarded as not needed by Eskom and
Well,
not necessary.
There was no order number. And, and all,
Yes.
and the evidence that was led in the hearing
Yeah.
says that.
Yes. Do you by any chance have a copy of the ruling of the chairperson?
It's MK33, sir.
Yes.
In this bundle.
Okay, no, that's fine. Okay, I think at least now I understand that
but let me
part.
tell you, let
Yes.
me complete the picture. Let me complete the picture. I've learned about the meeting of the 6th of March. I've learned about the meeting of the 7th of March in Nkandla.
Yes.
But of particular importance is what happened in the meeting of the board of the 11th of March
With respect to your suspension.
with respect to my suspension.
Yeah.
My suspension.
Yeah.
And that is why I don't buy these other stories.
Yes.
Because in that meeting, Mr. Zolatsotsi says, we're going to investigate these 4 areas. And the investigations is triggered by the load shedding, which is generation.
This is now him speaking when you had been called.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. And then he says, you are responsible for the load shedding. Mr. Tsotsi has said that many times in this commission. And one of the frustrating things, Mr. Chair, is sitting at home, somebody giving evidence here and being untruthful and you can't do anything about it. It's like you must break the TV now. Mr. Tsotsi says, Mr. Koko is responsible for generation because he's doing the maintenance. The Eskom delegations of authority that Mr. Tsotsi himself signed clearly says he's lying to you. He was taking you for a ride. And when the board took him to task and said, but maintenance, load shedding is not maintenance. The Eskom board, and I've cut and pasted a section that Mr. Tsotsi signed, clearly says that the responsibility for running generation lies with the group executive generation. And if we're going to go on that line, then the head of generation, who runs generation, should have been suspended. But every time, and go and listen to the audio of 11th March, every time Mr. Tsotsi is told, but what about generation? He says, no. Generation is Mr. Koko. And the only reason he did that is because he wanted to create a facade and an excuse that I must be part of that. Because the person who is managing generation at that point was Mr. Ntsokolo. So if generation was to be investigated, then the head of generation should have been suspended, not a service provider who has neither is distant from generation. And worse still, the Eskom regulation, and Chairman, I'm going to ask you, please, ask your investigators to go and look at 2012 organizational structure that Mr. Tsotsi himself signed. Is attached. Mr. Tsotsi was taking you for a ride.
Now, of course, you make the point that you make about what Mr. Tsotsi said at the meeting of the 11th when you had been called in.
Yes.
To say your suspension was driven by Mr. Tsotsi. Am I right to understand it like that?
That's correct, Chair.
Yes. Of course, you have been listening to the evidence that has been held. What do you say to the evidence, both by Mr. Tsotsi as well as by Mr. Nick Linnell, that at the meeting in Durban on the 8th, you were included among the 3 executives that he says he was told by, I think, Ms. Dudumieni, were supposed to be suspended or whose suspension was contemplated. What do you say about that?
Chairman, I've listened to the evidence of Mr. Nick Linnell. I've listened to the evidence of Mr. Tsotsi. I was shocked. At times, almost angry that there was such a meeting. It really shocked me. But Mr. Tsotsi did also tell you that the idea of an inquiry into Eskom was an idea that he was thinking about it. He was thinking about it. On the 6th, in the presidential guest house, Mr. Linnell and Mr. Dudumieni allegedly discussed that further. I think Mr. Tsotsi was not there. No, Mr. Tsotsi was not there.
Yeah, he was not there.
And the affidavit of Nick Linnell says he is the one who muted the idea that says you can't do this type of investigation without suspending people that are in charge. I think that was Mr. Linnell. He then said on the following day they met at the presidential guest house. And the discussion of the areas of discussion continued in 2 meetings. One attended by Mr. Masongani, the other one by the president. Mr. Masongani was there or not. And then he says, they then agreed on the 3 areas that had to be investigated. Generation, new build, and commercial. Mr. Linnell says, I did not know Eskom people. The names were emailed to me later. That's the evidence of Nick Linnell. So the names were attached by Mr. Tsotsi. And if Mr. Tsotsi was truthful, when he attached the name, he would have attached the generation name there. But he did not. He attached my name because he was determined to make sure that I'm part of that pack that must go.
So you don't accept the evidence that in terms of the discussion at the Durban meeting on the 8th, that your area was included in terms of the portfolios that had to be investigated and whose heads had to be suspended.
Chairman, I don't accept it, and let me tell you more. Mr. Linnell reads a document that was submitted by Mr. Maswanganyi. It's a conspiracy theory. Please, let's go back to it. He says there is a sabotage at Eskom. The open cycle gas turbines have now been converted into closed cycle, into combined cycle, and into base load operation. And there is no need to do so. You may not understand the jugular there. The first conclusion that I have on that letter is that it was written by a non-technical person. By mixing the words, it's somebody who is not involved in our business, a distant person. But secondly, what he was trying to do there, he was trying to force in the commercial part of the business. Because according to them, Eskom is spending 1 billion rands of diesel and somebody else is benefiting. And at that time, you may remember or may not remember, there was a lot of stories that says the medical doctors are getting diesel contracts from Eskom. It was very common accusation. So all what Mr. Masangwanya was doing with that conspiracy document was to force an argument that says there is a sabotage, one. Two, this sabotage has led to the use of diesel at 1 billion rands a month, and certain characters that they may or may think they know are benefiting to it. When you take that line, you then conclude that then commercial must be included. And I was the head of commercial. But it was a big sell, and that is why Mr. Tsotsi pushed me into generation and say, you are Mr. Generation, when he knows that Mr. Generation is Mr. Ntsokolo.
Mr. Selega?
And Chairman, please go and read. Your investigators must go and read and come and advise you. Go and read the organogram of Eskom.
Well, what you must do, anything that you think is relevant and important, talk to your legal team, they can finish it.
My affidavit deals with that, Chair. I've dealt it, I've included the affidavit, I've even quoted Mr. Tsotsi.
Okay, all right. Mr. Selega, you can start where you want to start, but at some stage I'm sure you will talk about the issue of the Durban meeting and so on. Yeah.
Chair, I see it's nearly 7:15.
Yes.
And we didn't agree on how long we're going to run.
Yes. I know that my own contemplation was that we would finish about by about 7. We haven't. I'm prepared to continue, subject to everybody. I think that maybe we should continue and see where we are by 8 and take it from there. How is that for you?
That will still be a short time. It seems to me I need to traverse.
No, I'm not necessarily saying what will happen.
Yes,
I'm saying we'll assess and take it from there at that time. Mr. Berry, how is that for you?
In terms of, are we going on?
Okay.
I have no difficulty with that.
I was saying let's go on until 8.
Yes.
And assess at that time whether we go on further or what we do.
As you please.
Is that all right? Mr. Koko, that's fine with you?
That's fine. But
Okay.
may I ask for a biological break, Mr.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's take a short break, 10 minutes.
5.
Yeah, okay. Let's take a 10 minutes break.
Thank you, Chair.
We adjourn.
All right.
Okay, let's proceed.
Thank you, Chair.
While doing justice to the issues, we will need to try and use the time properly
Efficiently.
in terms of the pace.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
yes.
But in the end, we must do justice to the issues.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, no.
Okay.
Indeed, Chair. Mr. Koko, so we are in 2014. You were relating the story in 2014. Mr. Koko coming to you June 2014. What was your position in 2014?
Acting Group Executive Technology and Commercial.
Okay. Were you working with, or was she working for you, Ms. Daniels?
Correct. Correct, Chair.
Yeah. So, just explain for us, was she working in your office at the time?
Chair, I always have a difficulty explaining what Ms. Daniels was doing at my in my what her role was, but I found her in that office. He was the senior manager in that office for the previous executives. When I got there, I did not really appreciate her role. And I think she picked it up and she went to Mr. Marokane. And she knew that Mr. Marokane and I were tight. Mr. Marokane and I come a long way. We actually were very close.
Chair, sorry, Chair, should I leave it up to you to manage?
No, you can also do, yeah.
She was a,
Yeah, you.
Suzanne Daniels was a senior manager in my office,
Yeah.
and mainly looking at regulatory and legal issues.
Okay.
And I just wanted to put across how he ended up
Okay,
in
no,
my
that's
area. But her main focus, Mr. Chair, was regulatory and legal issues, primarily on the coal contracts. Suzanne was very strong on coal contracts.
Okay.
Okay, that's all right.
I beg yours, Ms. Daniels.
Ms. Daniels.
Sorry?
I beg your pardon, Ms. Daniels, Chair.
Okay, let me take step by step because you've mentioned quite a number of issues. You said in the letter from Sumitomo and in the letter of reply from Mr. Tsotsi, they specifically dealt with the 69 million rand, one, on the side of Sumitomo, that Sumitomo wanted to be paid, and two, from the side of Mr. Tsotsi, that Mr. Tsotsi in his letter committed Eskom to pay.
Correct. Chair, what I may not remember clearly is whether the letter from Sumitomo that came mentioned the 69 million rands. I think the letter from Sumitomo may or may not, but what it clearly did was to say to Eskom, you've got a contract with us. We've done the job. You need to come to inspections and you need to pay us, and that was not happening.
So is that the only correction you wish to make in that regard?
Yes, Chair, you remember this is 5 years ago, so I'm working from memory, but I think that's what it's all about.
Yeah. We have shared with you the affidavits with the annexures of Mr. Sikasimbi.
That's correct, Chair.
The letter of Mr. Tsotsi to Sumitomo is also contained in the annexures to his affidavit. You've seen that?
Chair, I I don't recall seeing the attachments. Chair, it's a second mistake I think this commission is being told. They said the same with the affidavit of Ms. Nonkululeko Dlamini Veleti, that they've sent an affidavit and it included telephone records. I did not comment, but that was incorrect.
Now, the letter, Chairperson, is in the reference bundle. Eskom,
If I may be permitted, the affidavit that was sent to us did not contain the annexures.
Yes.
I can refer you, though, to the finding of the Mr. Afsal Mosen, which starts at page 344 of the bundle before you, where part of the letter is quoted. If I can refer you to the relevant page, that is page 349, is where the letter or portion of it is quoted in Mr. Mosel's finding.
Yes, thank you.
thank you, Chair.
Yes, Mr. Slade.
Mr. Koko, what I'm going to do, just so that you have the benefit of the exercise I'm doing, is to put the other person's versions to you. You would have seen in the commission, we've done that at this commission, and we allow you to comment on that. So I'll do that by reference to this affidavit, because I've also looked at that letter and I couldn't find the reference to that 69 million. That you will find on page 747 of Eskom Bundle 13. I will ask my junior to assist you.
There's no 13 here.
Page 747, Eskom Bundle, reference bundle 13, 13.
Oh, this one. I got it.
You got it.
I got it, Chair. Thank you. Yes, 13. It is 13.
It's just for the chairperson to know whether or not indeed there's a 69 million, and we just move on.
Yeah, you can proceed, Mr. Slade.
Page 747. 747. It will be on your right. I think it's under item 18. Under item 18.
I'm getting there, Chair. My apologies, Mr. Sileka.
Yes. 747.
Look at the
I am
black
there.
numbers and not
Yes,
the
the
red
black
numbers.
I am there.
Yeah, can you identify, well, or shall I help you quickly, because we want to use time efficiently. This is a letter you can see. Oh, but you did have this letter, which you showed to Mr. Matona, by the way.
Yes.
Oh, remember you showed Mr. Matona, according to your affidavit,
Yes.
that Mr. Tsutsi son, is this the letter?
Yes.
Dated 11 August 2014.
Yes.
Is addressed to Assistant General Manager, a very difficult name there.
Yes.
Mr. Masato Taguchi.
Yes.
And on the next page is Mr. Zola Tsotsi's signature.
Yes.
Yeah. I went through the letter to see where you found the 69 million. I couldn't find it in this letter.
Yes.
So, can you recall exactly where? So there's no a commitment to pay 69 million in the letter. Can you recall where you got the figure from?
Chairman, it's quite simple. And here I'm going to ask us painstakingly to go to MK 33.
hang on, let's finish here first.
I'm answering that question
Yes.
of 69 million, where it comes from.
Or you accept that it's not in the letter?
I accept that it's in the
Yes,
letter,
okay, but you say it is somewhere.
but let's go to page 69.
Uh-huh.
Not page MK33.
Is that page 69? Mr. Selega, do you know where we find that
Absolutely.
in
He says MK.
MK33.
Is that an
33.
annexure to
Yes, I think
your
Chair,
affidavit?
my counsel talked to it.
No, I understand. Chairperson?
It is at the page number I referred you to earlier, Chair, at page 344 of the bundle before you, the annexes
To his affidavit?
to that affidavit, yes.
Okay, so what's the page number again?
340?
340
That's in Mr. Koko's.
in the bundle we have been using up to now.
Mr. Koko, I gather from Mr. Berry that that is the disciplinary ruling.
Correct.
Is that the disciplinary?
Correct.
Okay, so are you saying, Mr. Koko, you got the 69 the figure of 69 million rand in the ruling of the disciplinary hearing?
No. Remember, the ruling is the consequences of submissions.
Yes.
The ruling is the consequences of submissions. And Chair, I may want to, if let's assume that let's take it that I may have forgotten which document
Yes, yeah.
I found it from.
Yes.
But I'm saying the evidence that was led
Yes.
at the AFSAL at the disciplinary hearing clearly details where the 69
Confirmed that the amount was 69
confirms
million.
that the amount was 69. Chair, I want you to go to page 347.
Well, Mr. Selega, is 69 million an issue if we don't see it here?
Can I read page 347? In April 2014, Sumitomo made a demand of 69 million payment on the basis that it had purportedly manufactured goods pursuant to the contract. It is not in dispute that the goods were neither inspected nor requested under the purchase order, nor is it in dispute that there was neither a budget nor need for alleged manufactured items.
Okay, all right.
Yes.
If it's not, if the figure is not an issue, let's move on.
Yes, no, that's correct, Chair. We're just trying to clarify the version that it is in the letter and committing Eskom to that 69 million.
And Chair, might I say, in this letter, and I need to read this, you see, so just for the records to those who are watching, I take off my glasses when I read, because people read a lot into that.
Is it still the ruling?
Yes, it is the ruling.
What are you looking for in the ruling?
In the ruling, the chairman says he is satisfied that the signature by Mr. Tsotsi is unlawful.
Okay, well, if you say it is there,
It's there, Chair.
we
But the
can,
important part is,
yes.
that is what Mr. Tsotsi was afraid of. Mr. Tsotsi knew that what he did was unlawful, and if this matter is taken to conclusion, and the letter is found to be unlawful, then he's got an issue with the board and the ministry.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
This, Chairperson, I'm going to try to expedite.
Yes, yeah, not everything is important for
Yes.
our purposes, so.
Yes.
Yeah, let's focus on important issues for purposes of suspension. But the question, of course, of the letter
Yes.
is important for the reasons that, as far as Mr. Koko is concerned, that's where the origin is of why he was suspended.
Yes.
Yeah, but
Yes.
the question of the amount, I think we can accept that.
Yes.
Even if it was not 69 million, it appears that it would
Yes.
be quite a substantial amount.
Yeah. So Mr. Tusi doesn't deny signing the letter. He accepts that he signed the letter. I think you were saying earlier that you had not had sight of the letter.
Of course, of course I did not.
Yeah. So, Mr. Sikasimbi, in his affidavit, you know he details references to emails, and he says that when this issue came to his attention, he referred it to Mr. Charles Kalima. And then he attaches the emails of Mr. Charles Kalima corresponding with Suzanne Daniels, who was reporting to you. And that the two of them drafted the letter. And indeed, there's an email from Ms. Daniels saying the draft has been prepared and I think it's been forwarded to language. You had a language department, I believe, to oversee the draft. I mean, it's documents that got to be issued by Eskom.
But Mr. Selega, why are we going there? What will be the point for our purposes? You want me to give you some leeway?
Yes, Chair, please.
Okay.
And the draft letter, Mr. Koko, was in fact copied to you in the email of the 14th of May 2014. The email is on page 745 of that reference bundle, that other one. But it's detailed in Mr. Sikasimbi's affidavit. He says that, keep to that 745. There's Ms. Suzanne Daniels' email to Leo Dlamini. You are copied in that email.
Did you say page 745?
745, Chairperson.
Of which?
Of the reference bundle.
Yeah.
Sorry, Chair.
Yeah, you didn't say the reference bundle, so I was looking at the
Sorry, Chair, the reference bundle.
745.
At the top of the page. So it's a trail of emails with Ms. Suzanne Daniels. So we have prepared a draft here on, and we'll let you have it once gotten it back from language. So according to Mr. Sikasimbi, you would have been aware of the draft as it was being prepared.
Chairman, I don't recall this email. It's clearly copied to me. I don't recall seeing it.
Okay.
But let me read what the chairman rules after this evidence has been laid before him.
Yes. Or you can just tell us in a nutshell what does it say.
It's important that I do this.
Yeah.
The chairman had no mandate to change the terms of a contract, as this had to be referred back to the tender committee. The employee, who is Mr. Malesela, the employee was aware that this, and as a senior manager was or ought to have been aware that the procurement policy prohibits a change to the terms of the contract. The payment to Sumutomo was subject to obtaining of 3 signatures as the Eskom processes. The employee admitted that he signed the earlier version of the letter, draft letter, despite being aware that there was no purchase order, no budget, and no inspections of an alleged manufacturing. It follows, therefore, that the employee was aware that no payment was due. Now, Chair, I don't recall the the email.
Okay, that's
Yes.
fine.
But even the employee version says no work was done, no money is due. So why would I
Yeah,
support it when the same employee himself knows that no work was done, no amount is due, but he still writes the letter and pretends to have copied to me. Many people, when you are in that senior position, Chairman, people copies you in anything and everything.
yeah.
So he, in his own version, he knows he should not have done this.
Mr. Slinger?
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
But Mr. Totti is not, my gripe is that Mr. Totti has not been taken to task for acting unlawfully by the investigators of this commission. That's my gripe.
Well,
Sure.
okay, let's continue.
Yeah.
I assume that by the time you returned from suspension, Mr. Tsutsu was no longer a chairperson, was no longer a member of the board.
That's correct. And
Yeah.
he still deemed it important to come back and to testify in favor of Mr. Sikasimbe, and his testimony was rejected.
Mr. Selega?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I think there's further on also, and I'll expedite, there's further an email on page 753, where, according to Mr. Sikasimbe, you're requesting documents from Mr. Mongezi, and that is in regard to the Sumitomo matter. So, page 753, quickly.
On the Eskom matter, on
Yeah, that reference, man.
753.
Mr. Selega,
I will-
I've given you some leeway. I'm not sure that we should be going that far,
But I'll tell you why.
you may be knowing something I don't know. That's why I'm giving you leeway, but we should get to it as soon as possible.
I will, Chair.
Page 753.
753.
Yes, this is,
7.5?
no.
53.
Okay.
753 on the,
On the reference bundle.
no,
Correct, Chair.
no, Chair.
Okay.
And I beg your pardon, sir. Bundle 15? No.
13, no.
13.
Not your bundle, the reference bundle.